right. This was not my original plan today. I thought I was going to just sit down and play Black Panther and do a video on that later today, kind of my initial thoughts on that. May just do that tomorrow now because I have to talk about that Cyberpunk stream. Yesterday, news broke that they were indeed going to actually release patch 1.3, as we knew they had to eventually. They did a really kind of weird preview where they did one of their like narrative things, but they only really highlighted three changes they were making. One of them was to zoom out the minimap, which people have been asking for since launch because it's very easy to miss your turns. One was they are letting you choose between Sky and Angel in that one mission more easily so people don't get mixed up. That was a highlighted change. And then they are putting in a skill point respec button on the character screen itself and making it cheaper instead of you having to go to a Ripper dock. So it's like, okay, that's not great and not a lot. And they're like, okay, we're going to have a stream tomorrow. And not only we're going to have a stream, we're going to talk about some of the first free DLCs, which are also coming with 1.3. So it's like, okay, that's actually like a big deal because we have not heard anything about free DLCs this entire time. So I went into this stream with what I would consider pretty reasonable expectations. In terms of like stuff changing with the patch, I was not expecting them to be like, we redesigned the entire AI of enemies and now everything's fixed. Like, not expecting anything of that level, of course. Maybe expecting some cute quality of life changes. For free DLCs, I've never been expecting anything super huge because we have The Witcher 3 to kind of go on. But The Witcher 3 does contain, some pretty substantive free DLC things they added, which are, a couple new missions, New Game Plus, and then they had like cosmetic stuff. The end result of this stream was 45 minutes where a painfully little amount of information was revealed in a very awkward way with a stream that was 3 community managers, which God help them were trying their best, and then 2 developers from CDPR, one from Germany, one from the US, who were, shall we say, a little confrontational in terms of their presence on stream. They were intermixing with like, oh, we love our fans, whatever, but like the whole vibe of the stream was like deeply uncomfortable and I did not enjoy it. Like this stream like physically hurt to watch because the longer it went, the more you realize that like nothing of significance is coming from this. They did go over some like pretty minor quality of life changes that are good, and yet like we're judging on the sliding scale here of like, this is 8 months after launch. So when you're like, oh, you can craft in bulk now, or the minimap GPS is zoomed out, it's like, okay, these are changes that need to happen, and yet it's been 8 months and these are not exactly helpful at the moment. There are patch notes, so maybe there are more things I've missed that I haven't read yet. They're supposed to come out in like half an hour, I think. But keep in mind, these are the things they decided to highlight on stream. This also included very weird moments, like one of the improvements they made was to cat AI, as in the cat you can get in your apartment can now do more things and hide in more places. They spent about 5 minutes just on that. Was very weird. And pretty much none of the quality of life stuff really jumped out as like something that's going to be a major addition to kind of how you play the game or something to like bring people back. Like there's nothing like that in there. It is, the changes they made are fine, I guess. It just, nothing really jumps off the page as like, okay, this is like a must-have thing that, will be game-changing. The same is true for the free DLCs, which there were 3 total sets of free DLC revealed on stream today. One is a pair of jackets from Vic, not outfits, jackets, just the jacket, that look kind of cool, I guess. There's a red shiny one that kind of looks like a lot of the other Cyberpunk ones that already exist. And then there is a one that has like a fur collar and looks kind of unique. But again, these are just jackets, not full outfits. And I don't think I think the first one didn't have any mod slots and the second one only had 1 mod slot. And like in this game, you're probably not going to be wearing anything that isn't giving you like 3-4 mod slots. These aren't like even legendary rarity items. One thing they said about free DLC is they were trying to weave it into the story. So like here you get a text message from Vic at some point early in the game, I think, and it sounds like it's early in the game, and he will give you these clothes. So maybe they're good at that point in the story, but for like end game players or players that have beaten it, it's 2 kind of underperforming pieces of armor you will never wear because they're not good. The second DLC is again tied to a story moment. It's tied to the first quest with Panam and Rogue, where Panam asks you to like help her get revenge on some dude, and you can either not do that, which makes Rogue happy, or you can do that, which makes Panam happy. I think almost everybody probably sided with Panam, and yet what was presented on stream is if you don't do that, Rogue will give you a car, the Quartz Bandit. I don't remember if Panam gives you a car if you do the other thing. I don't know if you'll get this car if you side with Panam. I don't know if you are like 50 hours past this quest if you will get this car. But as a Quartz Bandit, it does not look cooler than, I'd say, I don't know, a dozen other cars in the game. The stream was hilarious because the one CDPR guy kept being like interjecting his opinion where he's like, I don't like that color. You can't change the car color in Cyberpunk. Yet another missing feature of the game. So that is a piece of DLC. And then the final DLC is an alternate look for Johnny, which, again, the CDPR guy chimed in and said he looks like a poser. So he is not a fan of that, apparently, even though that is 1/3 of the DLCs we're getting here. And I mean, that wasn't expected because we got like alternate looks for Siri and Triss and stuff. I think most people would have preferred alternate looks for Panam or Judy, not Johnny, but here we are. So that's a thing. And then there was just this like general overall vibe in this where it was like they went on a big spiel about how it's really hard to patch games after they're live and it's like open heart surgery, which begs the obvious response. Maybe don't release your game if it requires 8 months of thousands and thousands of bug fixes. They said again, this patch is mostly bug fixes and performance improvements, which is the content of all the patches we've gotten for the most part, 98% of what's come in all the patches so far, and that is still not changing. So that's where we are again. And then by the end of the stream, the one guy was talking about the GPS thing, and he's like, I see people in chat saying like, well, a mod solved this 2 weeks after launch, and he launched into this thing about how mods are great, but like mods only work on PC, and not that many people even use mods on PC, and therefore this is a lot more complicated than you think. That said, it is still 8 months later, and this was a relatively obvious, very simple problem, and it's only getting addressed now. But I don't know if the anti-mod thing was warranted. Like these guys said they were both started as modders, but like a consistency with Cyberpunk has been that the modders have done some really incredible stuff with the game on PC. Like there's one dude doing a huge kind of mega his own 1.3 patch that's coming. Other people have done like crazy mods with appearance and stuff, and new cars and new colors and full chrome mods and all sorts of cool stuff. And so I just don't know if that was really the best idea. And then they ended by saying like future expansions exist, but so they didn't give a date for 1.3. They didn't even mention the next gen release of the game, which is supposed to be this year. Didn't talk about that at all, unless I missed something. And then they did not give a date, obviously, for expansions next year. So that was it. The big obvious things that people were missing that like they said like, oh, we're gonna start in Judy's apartment. I'm like, okay, like I heard there was maybe some apartment DLC. Like, were you gonna get to customize her apartment or like, get things for that? No, that's not a thing. They're like they go to the mirror. I'm like, oh, maybe this is when you can change your appearance customization or finally fix how your face looks, or maybe they added more appearance options. Nope, none of that. There's nothing like that at all. There does not seem to be any changes to enemy AI, traffic AI, police AI, combat difficulty, nothing. Pretty much nothing. And if there are free DLC missions coming, even small ones, those were not mentioned at all. We only had this very, very brief cosmetic stuff, but even these cosmetics seem somewhat less than what we got in The Witcher. I don't know why you would pick Johnny for an alternate appearance as opposed to one of the love interests. I don't know why you would just pick one new jacket when this is a game with like 50,000 pieces of clothing. Like you would think at least they could do an outfit or something, or implement something like clothing previews so you can see what you're buying before you wear it. Again, that's a kind of quality of life thing I was hoping for that is not here. This was a train wreck. They said like, oh, maybe we should do more of these. Like this is an experiment. We want to see how it goes. And like, I have been vocally telling them like, just talk to us, like just explain what's going on. But like the substance of what was here was so like laughably sparse that like, it was no shock that they were just getting roasted the whole time by people in chat. But like, Also, the general vibe of this, at least from the devs, not the community side, but the devs was very defensive, which I understand because it's not fun to get yelled at all the time for your game, and not fun to be roasted in chat for 45 minutes as you debut stuff that they don't care about. And yet, this was wholly unexpected, but I don't think launching into offense of patching a live game when this game was so obviously rushed to release, even if it wasn't these specific people's fault, and then explaining why actually mods, aren't that impressive because it's so much harder to do this on all platforms. Pretty much everything about this was terrible. So patch 1.3 will release. There is nothing in there that I can see, someone who is desperate for any new content to actually make me come back in this game. I don't know why I would for this update. If there was something, if they had added more missions, or if they had added a bunch more appearance options or customization or things I could go out and farm, or a new game plus option, which The Witcher got eventually, that would be something to do. There is nothing to do in this new patch, it seems. I will go look at the patch notes, but from them scrolling through them very quickly, it seemed very much like it was just 99% bug fixes, again, like all these patches are. I have always said that half of the problem with Cyberpunk 2077 was the state the game launched in. The other half has been CDPR's response to it. And at every turn, they have had the opportunity to kind of put forth messaging about, what we didn't like, what we could have done better, and they haven't done it. I do respect, the one dev was at least trying to be honest. He's like, yeah, this game did not launch well, and we did not enjoy it launching not well. So we get that. And he's like thanking fans who stuck with it and stuff, but and he's probably going to get chastised for that blunt honesty, but in other instances, he was really defensive. So it's just a weird vibe all around, and it does not seem like we will be getting really anything of substance until some unspecified point next year. But if this is kind of the trend, the way things are going, I don't know if they should even keep investing in this. I don't know if there's a real point to it. There does not seem to be any sort of reasonable plan, approaching your grand turnaround point. As I said before, everyone's oh, there's heads down, there's No Man's Sky in it, but No Man's Sky already produced a bunch of very substantive expansions or additions at this point in its life cycle. The Witcher 3 already had its first major DLC out in addition to all its free DLCs. I think everyone's out of patience at this point. I mean, I keep covering this because it's just such a fascinating saga of how badly this is botched, and yet there is something at the core of Cyberpunk, there is a game I want to be fixed and a game I want to play more of. But nothing for 8 months has been the thing that's okay, they're doing it. They're not doing it. They're 99% just still fixing bugs that should not have been there at launch. And when they can, they're getting to a couple quality of life features or adding a couple cosmetics or things like that. So this was bad. I don't know if they're going to do a stream like that again. Clearly the reception is just, they're getting destroyed. And I don't like watching people get roasted, and they were very brave to be the faces of this. And obviously, I think most of Cyberpunk's problems are kind of from the management level, but that was not good at all. So I had to say something about it. Now I am going to play Black Panther and War for Wakanda, and have some thoughts about that in video and article form later, probably tomorrow. But yeah, we're going back to holding the pause button on Cyberpunk for a definite period of time. So yeah, all right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.